Standing fireworks show. The fun starts at noon and ends when the fireworks do. The 47th annual God and Country Day. Check out the website, ocalagodandcountry.com. Come celebrate being an American.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. I think most of you who listen to this station know that I put the news together in the morning. And we have a lot of news. Being a news talk station, we gather quite a bit of news. And when I'm going through the news, it's impossible. It's impossible to not see. I am talking about 30, 40 stories about either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And before it narrowed down to those two, I mean, all the other candidates that were running before, and Bernie Sanders is still getting a little bit of a mention, I guess. And of course, my mission is to just just skim the top, make sure we get the top stories, and then because there's so much other news going on, I don't want to just talk about the candidates.
Right.
However, up against shootings and riots and people hating one another, it's almost refreshing sometimes to talk about politics because they might be throwing verbal verbal missiles at each other. Mm-hmm. They're not throwing real missiles at each other, and it's always amazing to me. There was a story this morning that Jeb Bush is once again friends with Rubio. It's like, hello, you just hated each other a couple months ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
And whoever gets elected president, I would imagine that if Hillary is elected, I bet you Trump still becomes friends with her. I bet you they're still friendly, right?
He probably does.
Right? Didn't George Bush and Bill Clinton become friends? Mm-hmm. So I don't understand. We have a book here. Trump Bubbles is what it's called. It is written by Bill Eddy. He's an international expert on high conflict people.
I love that.
Oh, that's almost all of them. He's an attorney, a mediator, a therapist, and the president of the High Conflict Institute. Oh man, I'd like to be like a specimen there. He is going to talk to us now about his book, Trump Bubbles, The Dramatic Rise and Fall of High Conflict Politicians. Bill Eddy, what a fun topic. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you so much, Larry and Robin. Glad to be on the program and glad to be talking about this, and then we can stop talking about Trump after it for a while.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from San Diego.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for getting up early to be with us. 11:10. It was 8 o'clock. That's not too early. That's not too bad. I'm guessing were you doing interviews all morning?
This is my second one this morning.
Oh, okay.
So we're doing pretty good.
Do you know what I've often said? Let me just bring this up, and then we'll go to the book. I've often said that when intelligent people disagree, and you're sitting on the sidelines listening to them debate, we all benefit because you're hearing two sides that are different being expressed by intelligent people, and we as the listener get the benefit of it because we can sort of then weigh both sides. But when you're actually at the podium and the one debating, it doesn't seem like you change your mind a whole lot. You stick to whatever it is you started with. And I've often thought that candidates would be better off if they said, like if Hillary and Clinton were debating, which hasn't happened yet. I guess that'll happen soon.
Hillary and Trump.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hillary and Trump. What did I say, Hillary and Clinton?
Yeah.
If Hillary and Hillary
Clinton.
Well,
that happens too, probably.
Donald Trump.
Bill.
Yeah, if they were debating, I don't think you're going to see Donald Trump saying, you know what, I never thought of it that way. I don't know if he's going to back down at all, but that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's what's missing in today's political discussions. We're just hearing positions, and people move farther apart the more they hear positions rather than hearing an interest in dialogue. And you're absolutely right. A good politician will say, well, I hadn't looked at it that way. Let me think about that.
Yeah. The very first line is, in the preface of the book, Donald Trump is potentially the most dangerous person in politics since Adolf Hitler. Tell me about that. Do you actually believe that?
Yes, I do, and let me tell you why. It's not that Trump is exactly Hitler, but there's three ingredients that are the same, that parallel Hitler, especially in the 1920s. And that's one thing that concerns me. People say, well, you can't compare Trump to Hitler when he invaded Europe and had the extermination camps. But Hitler in the 1920s was someone who was considered a clown, who was considered way out on the fringe, that he was seen as someone who could tap into the emotions and anger of the German people, but wasn't going to last very long. And so the parallels, he was so focused on hatred for Jews, and people were saying, even big politicians were saying, well, that's just 5% of his program. He's really going to make Germany great again, and just ignore that 5%. But that's so parallel to what we're seeing with Trump today. He's got that target of blame, we call it, that high conflict people have, and that's really what builds the emotions that Trump thinking in politics. So that's the similarity. But one more similarity is Hitler's use of the radio. He was the first politician to use the radio to go into everybody's home with his message over and over and over again. And that's something Trump has really perfected that people haven't absorbed yet. That's a parallel that's actually more powerful today than it was 60 years ago.
Did Adolf Hitler have a reputation of having built anything to greatness? Donald Trump has a reputation of having built this real estate empire to greatness. I've heard people disagree with that, but you can't argue that he's got some buildings with his name on them, and the Trump Tower itself is really a magnificent, if not decadent, building.
Yes, huge, beautiful.
I mean, it is. I mean, I spent $5 on a chocolate thing, which was just so I could say I bought something there. But I mean, but did Trump have? I mean, did Hitler have a background where people said, look what he did without being in government. Think what he could do in government. Because I think that's part of what fuels Trump.
Right. And what seemed to be the parallels with Hitler were his speaking ability, his ability to get into everyone's home over and over again, and his ability to target certain populations as the cause of all problems. So certainly Hitler didn't have the business experience that Trump has had, but Trump's business experience is a mixed bag. We see as many business failures as business successes. So it's hard. That's not the issue, I think.
Right,
the issue is how he talks and how his message gets repeated so over and over.
The part of what you're saying that I agree with is that the American people who jump on board the bandwagon of believing that all of our problems are because of Muslims are really making a big mistake, because my gosh, who's the comedian that we know? The comic with the bald head.
Wahid.
Wajid or something. Wajid the comic is Muslim. Come on, this guy is the gentlest guy. He's the more famous comic? Ansari, the guy Ansari, right? He's Muslim, right? And our friends here in Ocala that are Muslim, there's no way that they're going to be bombing your house or shooting up your disc attacks.
No.
But because of the fact of ISIS being an Islamic organization, or claiming to be, we're making a mistake if we believe that that's how you identify the bad guy.
Right, absolutely. What we're doing is we're cherry picking who we're saying is the bad guy and then generalizing way too much. One principle we know in dealing with high conflict people in workplace disputes, family disputes, legal disputes, which is where my background is that you've got to keep the conflict small and focused. You've got to look at the problem rather than the people. And what's happening is we're being told we're at war with part of the Muslim world. The Muslim world's 1 billion people. And when someone like the shooter in Orlando, and my goodness, I feel so bad for you folks, and you have my condolences and empathy for what happened there. But when we make it huge, then we feed the problem. And so someone who may be trying to figure themselves out says, I identify with ISIS, and then kills a bunch of people. We can't make that big And we have to keep that small, as well as not putting that person's face on the news and their name on the news all the time. That's just like what we're getting with Trump. It's the repeated face and voice is what really makes us get so emotionally hooked and less thinking. So we have to be thoughtful. Thinking is the solution, not emotion.
All right, I don't want to really dwell on the comparison to Hitler's a whole lot, but I want to go there one more time at least.
Sure.
And it's with this, that Hitler didn't even have that. When he was grouping the Jews as a group of people that were lesser than human, or whatever he was doing to them, dehumanizing them, setting the landscape of humanity up to believe, at least in Germany, that they were worthy of genocide. The Jews hadn't attacked anybody. At least with ISIS, you have a little bit of a here's an example. There was no example back then. Mm-mm. The Jews were just gentle people trying to run businesses.
Well, what's interesting, if you look back at the history, that what was happening in the 1920s is there were Jews coming in from Eastern Europe into Germany. And so there was a concern that there were these foreigners, and yet there were established Jews who were involved with art and culture,
right.
Writers, musicians, Beethoven, Bach, all those kinds of folks that were part of the culture, and then they all lumped together. So it was step by step. First, Hitler was against the immigrant Jews. Then he was against all Jews. Then he was against everybody, gypsies, homosexuals, etc. And so it just grows. And that's the fear I have, is once you say it's okay to hate a group of people, that group of people is going to grow. And we're already seeing that with Trump. He's got so many people he hates, probably half the country by now.
What I find interesting about the people he ticks off is that the next day they'll be on TV liking him. I don't know what he does behind the scenes. But I said to Robin, I wish we had a big enough show that I could say something to tick him off, because then he'd probably meet with me tonight, and tomorrow I'd be apologizing.
Right.
That way, at least I'd know what he does.
Yeah.
But it's all that helps show. It's all emotional, and emotions shift much faster than thinking. So if you go back and think about it, we were at war with Japan and Germany not that long ago, and now they're our friends, and yet we switch sides, but often after devastation. Look at Vietnam. Now we're having outreach and connections with Vietnam, whereas 50 years ago that was our enemy. So emotions trump thinking, and that's why people can switch around, but they can switch again, just like Trump went to Clinton's wedding, and he said she was doing okay as Secretary of State, and now he says, she was the worst one in history.
Right.
It's all emotions, and that's what we have to realize.
The gentler, kinder candidate is Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right.
Well, I'm not talking policy. I'm not saying that I'm not saying I'm for him, or I just don't think. I think he demonstrates how a candidate should behave. Tell us what you're going to do if you're elected. You don't have to necessarily be so antagonistic to people, and I think most candidates are antagonistic. Can I ask you to hold on? We'll take a little break. We'll be right back, Bill.
That sounds good.
Okay, Bill Eddy is our guest. His book is called Trump Bubbles. We will be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Friday, times of clouds and sunshine and hot with a shower and thunderstorm or two bubbling up this afternoon. The high today 92 to 96. And fair skies Friday night, low 73 to 77. Saturday will be partly sunny with a thunderstorm in the area, especially during the afternoon hours, high 91 to 95. And on Sunday, partly sunny with a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon, high 89 to 93. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hi, this is Becky at Hello Gorgeous Salon. Let's get rid of those sun damaged ends and faded out color and get into something rich and vibrant. It's time to get that new look started. So call today and set up your appointment at Hello Gorgeous Salon, 351-5358. Hello Gorgeous is a certified Brazilian blowout salon. We can tame those locks, leaving your hair healthy and shiny with a Brazilian smoothing treatment. And whether you're going on a job interview or out on a date, your hands do a lot of talking. Manicures are a must. Hello Gorgeous is a full-service salon, so let us help you make a great first impression. Call us today to set your appointment at Hello Gorgeous. Our number is 352-351-5358. Again, that's 352-351-5358. Hello Gorgeous is conveniently located in the heart of downtown Ocala, right next to the historic Marion Theater. And don't forget, we also do men and children's cuts too.
Hello, gorgeous.
Thank you. 20 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Our guest is Bill Eddy. Bill has written the book called Trump Bubbles, The Dramatic Rise and Fall of High Conflict Politicians. I wanted to talk to you, Bill, a little bit about being an expert on high conflict people. And to do that, I wanted to tell you about my experience as an early talk show host way back when I first started doing this, okay?
Sure.
Because I entered this field from the world of music. I was a musician. I still am a musician. And so I didn't come here as or into radio as a political pundit and in any way. I was trying to be entertaining. I would do fun stuff on the radio. But inevitably, guess what happens? People want to talk politics. Okay. So then the question comes up, are you liberal or conservative? What are you? And I said, I don't even know. I'm not even sure what I am, And I kind of broke it down after all the years to figure out that if you adhere to one of those two labels, then you're going to be a conflict person. But I don't think I adhere to either one of them. And here's what I mean by that. I figured out that I'm conservative when it comes to the abortion issue. But I'm liberal when it comes to public school issues. and I'm conservative when it comes to perhaps, I don't know, the nuclear family or something like that. But I'm liberal when it comes to, spending money for roads and bridges and things like that. So I don't know. It seems like I have a little bit of each, and I don't see that I have to necessarily say I'm all of one and none of the other.
And that's very healthy. It's the kind of thing that we see that works. Because when we talk about high conflict people and high conflict personalities, they're generally stuck in one position. They have a lot of all or nothing thinking.
Right. Can
intense. Go ahead.
I just want to interject something, because something was told to me in the beginning of my radio years, and this is what it was. If you want to be big in radio, you have to be one extreme or the other. And at that time, they said, right now, Rush Limbaugh is big, so being extreme to the right is probably your best bet. Extreme to the left wasn't going to work so much on radio. TV maybe, but not radio. And I said, well, that's never going to be me. So I guess I'm going to be in small time the rest of my life, which turned out to be a true thing. And I think they're right. That person was right, that you have to be extreme in order to be the Rush Limbaughs, the Sean Hannitys, the Michael Savages. You have to be extreme. And I'm wondering if that same philosophy doesn't apply to politicians, whether it's faked or not.
I think that it does today, because just in the last few years, let's say the last 20 years, we have made politics entertaining. And certainly entertainment is driven by extremes. And what gets attention in our brains is what's on the edge. When you do routine, ordinary stuff, it doesn't grab your attention. But fear and danger and anger grab your brain. They actually hook your brain. You can't prevent this from happening completely. And they hook your brain and grab your attention. So what we see a lot is what gets attention on the news is the bad behavior on the fringes. Mm-hmm. But now that that's mixed in with politics, we're getting the extreme politics on the fringes get all the attention. And so we're dividing. We're not just dividing the United States. The world is dividing because what grabs our attention is these extremes.
I think you're right.
And so we're seeing that happen in Europe. And it's a problem, because we've got to take a step back and say, okay, that's entertainment. Now, politics is serious business where people do need to stop and say, as you said at the beginning, gee, I'll have to think about that point of view. That's what's missing.
Are high conflict people always visible? Because you've got the entities like the Koch brothers and the the burgers, and it seems like they sort of work behind the scenes. Would you classify them as high conflict, even though they're not so visible?
I think they're kind of in between. Let me just say how we define high conflict. There's a lot of all or nothing thinking, intense or unmanaged emotions, extreme behavior or threats, and a preoccupation with blaming others. So that fits, I think that fits Trump pretty well. The Koch brothers, I think, are thinking more. So even though their politics are far to the right, they're thinking about that, and they're somewhat strategic. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't embrace policies that are all or nothing and extreme, but they're not going to get the attention that someone who's in your face, angry, etc. So I think some of their policies do suggest they have some high conflict thinking, but they may not be as extreme in their personalities as, say, someone like Trump is.
If we were to take two extreme people and say these are the two people we want to put to be considered to run this country and protect us from whatever the world might hurt us with, and those two people are General Patton and Mother Teresa, just to pick out two extremes. Okay, somebody might say, well, Mother Teresa would be the best because she's going to deal with it in a loving way. And somebody else is going to say, no, so General Patton's going to be the best because he'll just blow them up when they try to hurt us. That's what we need. We need somebody who can blow them up. And who's right? I mean, when you have two extremes, how do you know who's right? Because you need a watchdog sometimes, and other times you need mommy, who's going to be saying, no, everything's all right. You need the loving person.
And absolutely what you need is both. And that's what's missing in politics today. We're really getting connected to sides. So people identify with one side or the other side. George Washington said centuries ago that having two parties was not a good idea. And what we're seeing now is these two parties are moving farther and farther apart because the extremes are getting all the attention. We really need balance. And that's why I agree with you. I don't say we need just Democrats or just Republicans. We need both, but we need to listen to both and then make thinking decisions.
Absolutely.
And so that's the piece that's missing. And I think we're going to start seeing the downside of this, especially after what happened in England with the Brexit vote, which was very much a vote about emotions against immigration and not a vote about thinking. At least I think we're going to see that's a bubble that's going to burst over the next year or two because it emotionally was pumped up very quickly. Immigrants are all our problems. If we get rid of immigrants, we just get rid of the EU, then we're going to be wonderful on our own little island. And in reality, little islands don't work. It's an interconnected world, and we're smarter when we hear two sides of an issue, not just one.
We have a system here for immigrants. We're just not using it. We have to use the system that was in place in order to vet everybody who comes through our shores. We have this wonderful poem written by Mary Lazarus. What's her name on the Statue of Liberty? Mm-hmm. It's just a wonderful sentiment that we can be the place that you can run to if nobody else is going to treat you well. But we have to have laws to do it right too, so that we don't hurt ourselves in the process. What a great conversation your book has caused. I don't know that I agree with comparing Trump to Hitler. I see why
in the 1920s.
Okay, I see why you did that. I think some people will just see that and run with it and not really read what you're trying to say in the book. But nevertheless, obviously a deep thinking person, and thank you for being on the air with us, Bill.
Thank you so much.
I have a copy of the book if you want it. It's called Trump Bubbles. It's written by Bill Eddy. He spells his name Billeddy. And call me if you want the copy that was sent to us. The rest of us would have to go buy it. Do you have a website, Bill?
It's highconflictinstitute.com, and the book can be gotten anywhere, Amazon, etc., but it's also available at our publisher, unhookedbooks.com.
Okay, highconflictinstitute.com. All right, excellent. I'm going to check out that site. This was very much a stimulating conversation. Thank you for doing that, giving that to us, Bill.
Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you, Robin.
Good stuff. All right, we've got to take a little break. Guess what we do in 10 minutes? We pick our winners. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. President Obama speaking out on the decision by the UK to leave the European Union, saying the U.S. respects the decision by the people of the United Kingdom and that the special relationship between our countries will endure.
The White House, in a statement prior to the Brexit results, said the president would be talking with British Prime Minister David Cameron today.